All right, there it goes, recording. There's it all down. Then I gotta get it myself. Then we go back to all of them.
All right, so the Second Amendment. How many of you guys here have a gun or has ever had a gun? That's a large amount. Just with our small group here, 10 people, we can see how many people have weapons here. So recently, there's been controversy to the Second Amendment due to mass shootings and criminal acts of some individuals. I don't believe law-abiding, responsible gun owners should be suffering the consequences of removing the amendment because of those criminal acts. I believe there should be other solutions. Guns have never been out of the controversy. There's always been gun crime, and even just recently, this past Saturday morning, according to the News Herald, there was 2 people dead and 2 injured in Cincinnati, Ohio. According to the website justfacts.com, there are 300 million guns in the United States, and about 100 million of those are handguns. According to smartgunlaws.org, there was an interesting comparison. In 7 years of the U.S.-Iraq war, there was 4,400 American soldiers killed. That same number is the same here in the United States of U.S. citizens killed by guns, but that's every 7 weeks instead of every 7 years. I believe the federal government should not modify or repeal the Second Amendment because it does not reflect the will of the people, ancestors, and hunters. For people, I believe people have guns for many reasons, but the main reason could be for personal safety. People that are, for example, caught in a mass shooting event, which seems to be almost a normal now, because we hear that mostly in the news nowadays, they would love to have a gun. According to the Gun Digest magazine, there's a police officer named Bob Whaley from the St. Louis, Missouri Police Department. He argues against the federal government that their policy is to run and hide. He believes, why not stand your ground and shoot back and fight the criminal? Also, sometimes guns are a necessity. For example, in Alaska. The wilderness, if you're out there, if you see a bear, you would want a shotgun with you to defend yourself. As far as our ancestors created the Second Amendment because they did not want our government to commit atrocities against its citizens. They wanted to protect the citizens against the government possibly becoming a tyrant style of a government. Also, they also needed these weapons for reliance to hunt their food because they didn't have a grocery store like we do now, and they did not have a police force. They can simply call 911 like we do now. So back then, this was extremely more important. Recreational law-abiding hunters, I believe, would be the most effective. I don't believe they should be punished because they're doing everything right. They follow the rules, they follow the regulations, and for those that hunt, they realize there's a lot of rules, there's a lot of regulations that follow when you hunt. I believe if you ban or repeal the Second Amendment, that would create a black market, and what would happen is people would buy guns that are not registered, or guns that people don't know where those guns came from, or if they were used in a crime before. But hunters do agree that new policies could be put in place. According to the magazine, Sporting Shooter magazine, they say the government has an opportunity to do something positive and should do so. Again, with 300 million guns in the country, there will always be an access to guns if you want to get a weapon. So the federal government should not modify or repeal the Second Amendment because it affects personal safety of citizens. Ancestors were able to figure out a way or a solution around gun crimes. And hunters should simply not be punished by the acts of criminals when they do everything right. I believe guns will always be part of society in some way, whether it's the military, whether it's police, whether it's a hunter, or whether it's personal safety. Repealing or modifying the Second Amendment would not be a solution to the crime we face today. it might even make it worse. Thank you. Now, I'm willing to take some questions from some of you guys.
I have a question.
Sir?
We're not gonna repeal the Second Amendment. What other policies should be put in place?
I believe, while the amendment stands still against its citizens, I believe that there could be policies that could be put in place to restrict criminals from having access to a gun. For example, if a felon is not allowed to buy a firearm, that's not restricting all the citizens, that's simply a policy making it harder for certain people to get a gun, not possible. As of currently, there's no laws in the United States that restricts a terrorist from buying a gun. If you are on the terror watch list, you legally can go buy a gun. So there could be policies that could stricten that area, and even if it makes it harder, even if we know it might not stop it. If somebody might want to get a gun, they will get a gun. But if it makes it harder, it's a step forward. Okay.
Do you suggest that everyone have a handgun on them at all times?
I don't suggest that everyone should have a handgun at all times, but depending on your state that you live in, you are free to get a concealed carry permit, and you are able to carry a gun on you if you wish you need to. Of course, what we hear in the news, it seems like there's a lot of chaos in the world, in our country right now. But the reality is, of you being stuck in one of these events is really small. You have a much bigger percentage of dying from anything else versus a terrorist events. So I believe you are free to carry a concealed weapon permit, and you are able to carry your gun if you feel the need. But I don't believe everyone should, because if you fall into that belief of always living in fear, the terrorists are winning. That's what they want us to do. They want people to sit in their homes. They don't want us to go anywhere. They want us to sit there and believe that as soon as they step out, they could be killed. So I would say that's up to the person. I believe that it shouldn't have to come down to that point where you should always have to carry a gun, but certainly you are able to if you feel you can with a concealed carry permit, legally.
What did you think about all these people walking around Public Square last week during the RNC with assault rifles, handguns openly displayed? What did you think about that?
It was lawful. They legally had the gun. They weren't menacing with the weapon.
You don't think people were menaced by seeing those weapons?
I don't believe so, because there should be no reason to be afraid of a gun. Why would there be? You shouldn't feel fear if you see a weapon. It's the country; those are the laws. It is what it is. If that's legally allowed, there should be no reason to fear. I personally wouldn't like to see that, but it's just is what it is with the laws, and I wouldn't be offended if I saw somebody, or I wouldn't be afraid. Obviously, if somebody's acting suspicious with a weapon, obviously that would be brought up to the authorities, and they should take appropriate action. Something suspicious. Okay. Everyone good? All right. Thank you, guys.
I do
Have a
one
good-
more, right?
Yeah.
One more, here we go. Get everybody in there.
Yes, have a good rest of your day. Thank you.
What's the topic of next week's thing?
There we go.
Persuasive.